You do not fight a superior tank head-on. That was the rule. Not written in any field manual, not carved into steel, but understood by every tanker who had ever stared down the long barrel of a German 88. Because by 1944, there was one truth everyone knew. German tanks were better. Heavier armor, bigger guns, longer range. A Tiger could knock you out from over 2,000 yards. A Panther could punch through your hull before you even knew it was there. And you? You were inside a Sherman. 30 tons of riveted steel, a high silhouette, thin armor, a gasoline engine that could turn your tank into an inferno in seconds. German crews didn't even call it by its name. They called it a Tommy Cooker. And they laughed.
German commanders believed the Sherman was a joke, a stopgap, a desperate machine built in numbers because it could never win on quality. To them, this wasn't even a contest. It was execution. But in 1944, in the Hedgerows of Normandy, one man and the tank he commanded would shatter that belief forever. You are 24 years old. You were born in Texas. You grew up during the Great Depression. You learned early that survival isn't about comfort, it's about adaptation. Your name is Lafayette G. Pool, Staff Sergeant, Tank Commander, 3rd Armored Division. You are not supposed to be extraordinary, but you are. You don't just command a tank, you become it. You know every sound your engine makes, every vibration in the track, every hesitation in the gun traverse. You name your Sherman in the mood. And unlike the Germans, you don't see it as inferior. You see it as alive.
By June 1944, the Allies have landed in Normandy. The beaches are secured, but the real fight is just beginning. Because inland, France isn't open terrain. It's a maze. Thick hedgerows, earth embankments reinforced with centuries-old roots, narrow lanes, blind corners, fields that turn into death traps. Perfect for ambushes. Perfect for German tanks. The Wehrmacht knows this terrain. They use it like a weapon. Panthers and Tigers sit hidden behind hedges, their long guns covering choke points. You don't see them, but they see you. And when they fire, you don't get a second chance. So what do you do when your tank is outgunned, out-armored, and outranged? You close the distance. Because at close range, the rules change.
And Poole understands that better than anyone. Within weeks of landing, he begins to do the impossible. He doesn't avoid German armor. He hunts it. It starts with movement. Fast, aggressive, unpredictable. You don't wait behind cover. You don't trade shots at range. You push forward, hard and fast, forcing the enemy to react. July 1944. Normandy. Your column moves through a narrow lane. Hedgerows rise on both sides like walls. Visibility? Less than 50 yards. You know this is a kill zone. Every instinct tells you to slow down. You accelerate, because hesitation is death. Then, a flash. Right side. A Panther. Distance? 300 yards. Its gun swings towards you. Too slow. You fire first. The 75mm gun roars. The shell slams into the Panther's side armor. Not enough. It turns. You don't stop. Driver, forward! Close the distance. 200 yards. Now you're inside its comfort zone. You fire again. This time, the round punches through the weaker side armor. Flames erupt from the turret. The Panther is finished. You don't celebrate. You move. Because in Normandy, one tank is never alone.
The legend of In the Mood. Over the next 81 days, you fight almost non-stop. Engagement after engagement. Ambush after ambush. And every time, the pattern repeats. The Germans expect you to hesitate. You charge. They expect you to engage at range. You close to 100 yards. Sometimes closer. 50 yards. Point blank. At that distance, even a Sherman becomes deadly. Your crew moves like a machine. Loader already preparing the next round. Gunner tracking targets before they appear. Driver cutting angles, using terrain, never staying still. You're not just fighting tanks. You're fighting time. Because every second you stay in one position increases the chance of a return shot. And one hit is all it takes. You lose friends. You see Shermans burn. You hear the screams inside steel coffins. And still, you push forward. Because now, something is changing. The Germans are noticing. At first, it's confusion. Reports come in. American tanks attacking aggressively. Closing to short range. Multiple armored losses. They don't understand. How is this happening? How is a joke tank destroying Panthers and Tigers? Then comes fear. Because you're not alone. The Sherman isn't one tank. It's thousands.
Mass-produced, reliable, easy to repair, always moving. You knock out one, another takes its place. You disable two, three more appear. And they don't stop. They don't hesitate. They come at you. Again. And again. And again. By August 1944, your tally is staggering. 12 German tanks destroyed. 258 enemy vehicles eliminated. Dozens of anti-tank guns silenced. All in just 81 days. You become a legend. But legends don't feel invincible. Because one day, the war reminds you of the truth. Steel always loses. August 15th, 1944. Near Brest. Your column advances. Then, impact. A German 88 hits your Sherman. The explosion tears through the hull. You are thrown. Fire engulfs the tank. Your crew scrambles out. But not everyone makes it. You survive. Barely. Severely wounded. Your war is over. But the story isn't.
The truth about the Sherman. What the Germans didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was that the Sherman was never meant to win alone. It was never about one tank versus another. It was about a system, a philosophy. While Germany built fewer, more complex machines, America built thousands of reliable ones. While German tanks required meticulous maintenance, Shermans could be repaired in the field, often within hours. While German doctrine emphasized superiority, American doctrine emphasized coordination. Infantry, artillery, air support, and tanks that kept moving. So when Germany realized the truth, it was already too late. Because the Sherman didn't just fight tanks, it overwhelmed them. In France, in Belgium, in Germany itself, the pattern repeated. German crews began to adapt.
They avoided open engagement. They ambushed. They withdrew. They respected the Sherman. Not because it was stronger, but because it never stopped coming. And that changed everything.
Because wars aren't won by the best weapon. They're won by the one that shows up again and again until the enemy breaks. Lafayette G. Pool survived the war, but he never fully left it. His wounds stayed with him. His memory stayed sharper. He had seen what steel could do, what fire could take. He lived until 1991, long enough to see history remember, but not always correctly. Because even today, people still repeat the old myth that the Sherman was inferior, that it was a death trap. But they forget the men inside it. Men like Pool. Men who understood that war isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about courage under impossible conditions. It's about turning a so-called joke into a weapon the enemy fears. So the next time you hear someone say the Sherman couldn't compete, remember this. Remember the 24-year-old from Texas who drove straight into Panthers and Tigers and won. Remember the 81 days that redefined what a tank could do. And remember the thousands of crews who climbed into those machines, knowing the risks and moving forward anyway. They deserve to be remembered.